partnerships is the way to go. And it's not anything that is just confined to Kisii University. We live in a society. There is a context. Kenya's present political administration, popularly known as what? Better. Bottom-up economic transformation agenda, cherishes partnerships. We partner with across universities. We partner within and out of this country. We partner with communities. We partner with so many people. The same is with the East African community. Remember the Inter-University Council of East Africa, if you are talking about universities, and the mobility programs that are there, so that we can host colleagues from other countries here. Our colleagues can also go to other countries. The African Union is still doing the same. In fact, the African Union's Agenda 2063, that is their vision for African Union, Agenda 2063, launched first time before the Executive Committee. Executive Committee comprises ministers of foreign affairs of the African Union, chaired by the then chairperson of the African Union Commission, Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, at a place called Dawa in Ethiopia. That's when they launched the Agenda 2063. One that will give Ogechi, I hope I'll be there, I don't know, a job. Professor Luther, the agenda said that in 2063 there will be no need for translation in conferences because Africa will be using one official language. Which official language I don't need to mention. You know it. Just go and read the Agenda 2063. The Agenda 2063 says, or it emphasizes partnerships at multiple levels, ranging from continental to global, public and private partnerships. I hope you guys are noticing that I'm emphasizing collaboration and what? Partnership. You cannot do inclusivity, you cannot do borderlessness, you cannot preserve and generate knowledge if you don't have what? Collaboration and partnership. Indeed, the high noon of the United Nations Strategic Development Goals is SDG number 17, which calls for partnerships in order to achieve all the SDGs. So colleagues, brothers and sisters, let us avoid egocentrism. Look for partnerships. Look for collaborations. Enhance them. Look around in this room. Some of the people you may be seeing here that are sitting next to you may soon become your collaborators and partners in solving some of the stubborn problems that we have. So let us learn from one another, challenge one another with thoughtfulness, and inspire one another toward a healthier and more sustainable future. And that's why I now notice that there are several representations in this room, and I'm happy to note, I know the Master of Ceremony did recognize some of them. They are our colleagues from Nigeria. Are they Nigerians? Did you say they are Nigerians here? Where are the Nigerians? A round of applause for the Nigerians. Thank you. You know, Nigerians are my brothers and sisters. My middle name is Oyori, which is Oyor, and it's Yoruba. True? Ogechi, my last name is Igbo. Thank you, my brothers and sisters. So you see, if you guys think that I'm just a villager here, you're mistaken. I'm international. Even my name is international, you know? The very first portion of my name, Nathan, is from the Bible, you know? And I am the one who went to talk to David about his wrongdoings, you know? And I've told you my middle name is Nigerian. My third name is Nigerian. My grandfather's name is Lu. It's Ondengi. Ondengi is Ondeng. Of course, Ogech is Okech also. There are colleagues here from the United States of America. I know Professor G.C. Luter is here, a good friend from the Appalachian State University in the area of political science. Mpigie makofi. He visited us last year, he's visiting us here, and next year he'll be here, hopefully. Isn't it? I know there are others online. I know from, is Professor Kemori online? Mpigie, just a round of applause for Professor Kemori. From the State University of, they say Mankato. It's Mankato. That's how I say it. They say Mankato. in the area in Minnesota. Oh, he's there. Pigie makofi yule jamaa kutoka hapa. A good friend of ours and the chair, I think the current chair of Mkida, one of those organizations that have partnered with this university to ensure that we have a school of law, and they are also expanding and working with us in other areas. And any others who are online, I know their colleagues from Uganda. Uganda. Where are the people from Uganda? Wow. Mulimutia va sebo, mulimutia va nyabo. Good. The Pearl of Africa, the place where the king is, the Kavaka is the Sevasaja, if you didn't know. Isn't it? We have Kenyans here. Mjipigie makofi. Isn't it? And many more who are with us from other places. But I'm also happy to note that we have other institutions that are represented here. You know, those people that I've mentioned, and the ones I'm going to mention, are people you need to collaborate with, partner with, and even use their partners. You know, these things should snowball, isn't it? Use what they have so that you can do what? You can go beyond. Koitalel Samoi, the principal is here. He'll be talking to us later. And for those of you who may not know it, he went to the university that was, the first university that was never anybody's university college. That's where he did his master's. But he went to the university. He was at Moi when I think I was the second year when he was the first year doing masters. We have people from Days for Girls Kenya NGO. We have Kaimosi Friends University. Have they arrived? In other words, I'm telling you the people to expect. University of Eldoret. They should be coming. University of Eldoret, not Eldoret. Tell them that, Jane. It's not Eldoret, it's Eldoret. Bomet University, have they arrived? They should be arriving. Moi University, how many of you are from here, from Moi University? There is a relative of mine here from Moi University. I live in a house, and if she decides that I'm going away, I have to go away. You may build a house, but at the end of the day, you'll be chased. Okay? Mount Kenya University, it should be coming. University of Calabar, that's now Cross River from Nigeria. Jomo Kenyatta University, Coastal Carolina University in the USA, the Technical University of Kenya, Daystar, United States International University of Africa. You also want to say thank you. You know, when you do some of these things, you also need some people to give you some funds, some assistance here and there. There is somebody, I don't know whether she has arrived or she's online, Dr. Rehema Namono from Makerere School of Business. I got her mail. Oh, it's you. Yeah, I got your mail this morning. Thank you. Okay. There are those ones who are partnering with us and assisted us to make this conference a success. From Dallas Premier Hotel in town here, Olengoti Gardens, School of Tourism, School of Tourism. You'll be at school soon. Thank you for getting people there. Neema Events, Mwalimu National Circle, Egerton University Circle, Jaron Group Limited. Thank you for Equity. Yeah, Equity is around. I hope they supported us. Otherwise, they should not be sitting here. So please, those and others We want to say thank you for coming, thank you for supporting us, because if you prepare some meal and nobody comes, and it's a banquet, isn't it? It's a banquet or a feast, and people don't come, it becomes a problem. So as we begin this conference, let us be guided by openness, curiosity, humility, and shared sense of purpose. Together, I believe we can reimagine a world where knowledge transcends borders, where inclusion defines our scholarship, and where research becomes a powerful instrument for human advancement. Once again, I want to say to all researchers and presenters, I commend you for your dedication. Your contributions through papers, posters, and discussions reflect your intellectual labor and drive development. I wish to encourage that you continue using this conference to share findings, but also to build networks and lasting partnership. It's now my pleasure to officially declare the third International Multi-Disciplinary Conference at Kisii University officially open.
Let us give him a 5 factorial for that very, very moving keynote speech. And we'll start, okay, warm up. 5 factorial, all right? Let's start. 1. Thank you. From where I come from, when you are male and a leader, you are given 5. And when you are female, then we go to 3. So, we give you 1? We will discuss that. That's part of research. We are so honored to have our chief guest, who is also the CEO of this great university. As I told you earlier on, the population is huge. We are around 20,000+ number of students, and we only got our charter in 2013. We are among the fastest growing university in Kenya. As much as we have been challenged, we moved from number 34, 37. I think this is the effort of trying to move closer to 1. Of course, it's a process, and I know with synergy, partnership, and collaboration, we are going to be there, which is quite great. Some few highlights that the keynote speech carried. 1, about the power of knowledge, that we need to work on that and make sure that we are able to preserve, to create, disseminate, and apply. He underscored the element of borderlessness without forgetting the issue of inclusivity. We cannot work alone. As much as the borders are open, we need to include everybody. And he said that's why this theme is in this very particular conference of multi-disciplinary international conference, where all disciplines are coming together. They synergize and come up with a solution for the world today. And the standing challenge is about the Ebola. That is a threat now. We are trying to do quarantines everywhere. But since as much as we are trying to quarantine, we have been told there are no borders. So it can easily sneak even out of the quarantine area. He has also underscored very ably about collaboration and partnership, and that is well covered in the strategic development goals. Number 17, we cannot do without that, and we want to build those networks. So far as a university, we have quite a number of collaborations, we have a number of partnerships, and on a small scale, you can even see those who stood with us for this conference. And we want to build this even further, not only one time, not one-off, but every time, and we want also to be very symbiotic. As much as our partners are supporting us, we need also to support them so that they benefit, we benefit, and eventually we grow together and become a big university. I was reading about Harvard University, and I found that it's Harvard because of John Harvard. And John Harvard did something that made his name remain in that particular institution. When it started in 1836, precisely October 28th, it was known as New College. But when he decided to give his home library, he gave 400 books from his home and bits of his estate to that new college. To date, his name is the one that is in that college. And today we want to ask ourselves, as you are in Kisii University, what's your impact? What are you doing in Kisii University? What's your contribution? As the keynote speaker said, you are publishing because you want not to perish. You want to flourish. But down the line, what is the legacy that you're going to leave? Yeah? How are we touching our students? How are we making follow-ups with those students? What are the partnerships that we are creating in our community? Without much ado, I think the keynote speech has brought a wake-up call, has drawn our attention to very critical elements that as we continue with our discourses this day, let us factor them in so that at the end of this conference tomorrow, we have something we can go back with to our offices, our lecture halls, our universities, our countries, that we can impact positively and be able to bring development. With all that, I want to say again, our chief guest, thank you very much, and we will always follow the pieces of advice and the much discussions you have brought on board this morning. I want now to ask that we have one speaker who is coming to speak to us before we have our break, and that is on the pedagogical approach of competency-based education from theory to practice. And we would want that speaker to come and be able to present that to us, and thereafter we shall be able to break for tea. I want to invite the chair, who is the chair of this particular conference, to come and introduce our speaker this morning. Shall we put our hands together as Daktari Kutu comes around? Karibu sana, karibu sana.
Thank you, MC, our chief guest, and all protocol observed. Whoever is going to introduce the keynote speaker is none other than Dr. Reba.
Our Vice Chancellor, the Deputy Vice Chancellor, the members of management who are present, and the colleague scholars who are in the house, good morning. Allow me to have this honor and privilege to introduce the keynote speaker of the hour. That is Professor David Kimori. You know, Professor Oyoli, has the advantage of being a linguist. I'm also learning today that his name is not local. You know, he's international. He's a Nigerian, among others. You know, he was able to pronounce the university where Kimori comes from very well. Now, Professor David Kimori is an associate professor of STEM education at the University of Minnesota State University, Menkero. He holds a PhD in STEM education from University of Minnesota, USA. No, the two are different. The Minnesota State University, Menkero, and University of Minnesota, USA, they are different. Those are two universities. Around me, that his research explores the effective methods of teaching STEM education with a focus on inequality-based learning and competence-based education. And over 10 years of his teaching experience, he has worked with the K-12 schools and tertiary institutions. Basically mentoring the learners and more specifically the pre-service teachers at this level. And his research passion is focused on creating engaging student-centered environment that prepares learners for ever-changing world. And allow me to say that the current wave of unrest across our schools, some are saying that perhaps our learners are not engaged. And Professor Kimoli had an opportunity to come here last year from June to around August. We were in this very particular venue here. We saw on how he had engaged our STEM learners, especially the 40 years who have now graduated, in terms of the very student-centered engaging approaches. And those students, some of them, I saw them around here yesterday, and I believe some of them have come here. He ended up even creating some unit over the same, and again preparing our teaching practice pedagogies and tools. Apart from that, as the Vice Chancellor indicated, Minnesota University has been a very close collaborator and partner, right away from donating the books for our School of Law. They have done us so much in terms of student exchange programs, among others. So he is a collaborator and a partner who has done so much to us. His title of a presentation is on a pedagogical approach of competence-based education that is moving from theory to practice. It is a topic of the moment which we need to hear from, and is part of our reimagining processes in our education system. Members of the auditorium, join me as we welcome Professor Kimori. For now, I may not ask that we clap for him, but I will simply allow him to speak. Then we appreciate him after his keynote address. Thank you so much, Professor Kimori. I believe you are online. Yeah, I've seen him online. Welcome and speak to us. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Eva. And thank you, everyone that is attending this conference this morning. And thank you for that wonderful introduction. And to pick it from our Vice Chancellor, Professor Gechi, was given us how his name is associated with Nigeria. I'll also say my name, Kimori. Now that I'm international, I've known it is well associated with Japan. Most of the time, I find myself also being confused as Japanese. I'm really honored to be part of this conference this morning, and I'm excited to be invited as one of the keynote speakers. I'm going to share my slides as I speak, and you can let me know if you are able to see them. I believe you are able to see my screen.
Yes, we are seeing your screen.
you. Our Vice Chancellor, Professor Ogechi, esteemed colleagues, university leaders, policymakers, researchers, faculty members, students, and ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It is a privilege and honor for me to join you virtually to address this gathering of scholars, educators, innovators, and leaders who share a common commitment of advancing the quality and relevance of higher education. I'm sorry I couldn't be there in person, but I know last year, such a time as Dr. Eva said, I was there. But then it is really good that we are able to join together, even if we are separated by time zones, geographical distances, but then we are able to use the power of technology. I would like to thank the conference organizers for creating this important platform for us to share ideas and for us to hear from one another. I'm just sharing to say that this is my third conference I'm addressing at Kisii University. It's not my first time. Kisii University has been home. We have this collaboration. We have the MOU that has been very active. My first time addressing a conference was in 2014, and the screen, you can see a picture of there, probably a guy who is much skinnier than now. That was 2016 when I came for the first Kisii County Education Conference, which was also held in Kisii University. At the time, I was a graduate student at the University of Minnesota. And at that time, my title of presentation was Attaining Vision 2020, a case for science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. That was a STEM integration. That was back before even we started having a conversation on competency-based education, which is basically STEM. At the time, I invited my friend from Ghana, and I also came from the US, and we were making the case for the Vision 2020 and seeing competency-based education as one of the pathways to that. The conference theme, Reimagining Inclusive and Borderless Knowledge through Global Health for Sustainable Development, really captures a lot, and it speaks to me when I see the words inclusive, when I see the words borderless, and when I see sustainable development, it captures the imperative of the moment. It is borderless, that is why I'm able to join. It is inclusive, that we are looking to ensure that each and every person is seen and felt in the academia. Just like Professor Ogechi mentioned, the world that we have, it no longer recognizes the geographical boundaries. We know the pandemics, Ebola, one of them, crosses the boundaries within days. You will get in every part of the world. But at the same time, technological advances have created unprecedented opportunities for collaboration, knowledge sharing, innovation across borders, and these are some of the realities that will compel us today and tomorrow to keep thinking about what we teach and how we teach, and most importantly, how the learners learn. That is where the institutions of higher learning occupy a unique position to make sure that we are all catching up with the ever-changing world. Universities are no longer merely centers of transmitting knowledge. They have become global hubs for innovation, intercultural dialogue, scientific discovery, and scientific social transformation. As educators, we are entrusted with preparing our students and graduates who can navigate complex and embrace diversity, collaborate across cultures, and contribute to sustainable development. Then the big question is, how can we educate students? How can we graduates who can improve lives, strengthen communities, advance global health, and contribute to a more equitable and sustainable world? And it is within this context that competence-based education becomes particularly relevant. Competence-based education challenges us to move beyond what the students know towards evaluating what the students can actually do with what they know. My topic of presentation this morning is competence-based education from theory to practice. And that could not be more timely than at this time, where we are talking about extraordinary change. Around the world, where I am seated now, where you are, many institutions of higher learning are facing a lot of changes and opportunities. As one of the speakers mentioned earlier, artificial intelligence is shaping industries, automation is transforming jobs, globalization continues to redefine economic and social relationships, climate change demands innovations, and employers are seeking graduates who can adapt, cooperate, communicate, and solve complex problems. As we know all these that we are seeing from the employers, from the world that we are seeing, yet many education systems are designed for a different era. For many years, higher education has excelled in transmitting knowledge. Higher education has always given good scholarships, intellectual advancement, but these contributions still remain invariable. Then the central question we have to ask today is knowledge alone enough? Can we confidently say that every graduate who completes a degree possesses the competencies necessary to thrive in an increasingly changing world? Can we guarantee that our graduates can apply what they know, solve authentic problems, work effectively with the diverse teams, communicate across cultures, and continue learning throughout their lives? These are the questions which continue to fuel the growing interest of competency-based education all over the world. This morning, I would like to explore 4 key dimensions of this journey: why competency education matters, the theoretical foundations of competency-based learning, and translating theory into practice in our institutions. Then we know the future of competency-based education in a rapidly changing world. My hope is that by the end of our time together, we will not merely understand competency-based education as an educational model, but see it as a transformative opportunity for higher education itself. Let me begin by considering the context in which universities operate today. Historically, higher education was designed around the transmission of disciplinary knowledge. Students attended lectures, completed assignments, passed exams, accumulated credits, and eventually graduated. This model served the society remarkably well in those days. However, today's environment is different. Employers are increasingly reporting skill gaps among the graduates that we graduate from our institutions of higher learning. Industries evolve faster than the curriculum we are teaching. Technological change continuously creates new occupations, while others are getting obsolete. And the average graduate that we have these days is more likely to change careers multiple times during their lifetime. All the graduates we are graduating are more likely to work in future non-existing jobs. There are many jobs that we knew that are currently there. Maybe if we can go as recent as 15 years ago, they were not there. Something I can mention like a drone pilot. Drones were not there, but these days you see them so much everywhere. And nobody was prepared for something like that. That is what competence education really gives. In this environment, the ability to learn, adopt, innovate, and apply knowledge may be more important than knowledge itself. And this is where we look at what really employers consider as essential competencies globally. Employers are looking for critical thinking. They are looking for problem solvers. They are looking for good communicators, collaborators, people with digital literacy, creative thinkers, people who possess leadership skills, ethical decision making, adaptability, and somebody who is willing to be a lifelong learner. In fact, if you ask some of these leading technological companies, they will tell you, don't even if it's an engineer, don't teach them more about even making a light bulb. That is what will teach them at the job. Teach them how they can work with others well. That is the most important thing. These are the competencies which also cut across many disciplines. They cannot be developed through memorization alone. They require authentic learning experiences. It is in this realization that has prompted many institutions worldwide to ask the fundamental question: how can higher education ensure that graduates live with demonstrable capabilities rather than merely completed coursework? And with that, men are pivoting towards competency-based education as the answer. So before really discussing more about competence-based education, let me explain what we mean by competency. So competency is more than just knowledge. Competency integrates knowledge, skills, attitudes, values, and behaviors. It integrates them into performance within a specific context. If I can give an example of nursing, a nursing graduate may possess knowledge of patient care procedures. However, competence requires more than that, just patient care procedures. That graduate must also demonstrate clinical skills, communication abilities, ethical judgment, empathy, teamwork, and professional responsibility. Competence becomes visible through performance, and it is demonstrated through action. Competence-based education, therefore, it shifts the focus from educational input to educational outcome. That is what we are looking for, what the graduates can be able to do. And with that, the key question is, we are not supposed to ask now what the students learn. Instead, we should be asking, what can students do with what they learned? That is what competency dictates. And with that, we are going to look at the shift of this competency-based education. And I know as scholars, as educators, we like using abbreviations, acronyms a lot. I know in Kenya we started with CPC and recently changed to CPE, and that drove people really crazy. But again, this morning I'm going to give you more other acronyms with competency-based education. Now, starting with that shift, which is very profound. As you start with competency-based education, CPE, we are looking at what is that? The CPE, it changes how we design curriculum. And that is where competency-based curriculum comes in. Then it changes how we teach. That is when competency-based education now changes to competency-based instruction. It changes how we assess our learners. And then finally, it changes how students experience education. That is competency-based learning. When you have all these and they are more interlinked, The most important is how the students experience the learning. And maybe the educators in the room can tell how right now the educators are feeling, how the instructors are feeling, and what really needs to be done for us to experience that complete total shift of CBE, CBC, CBI, and CBL. But I want to say that competency-based education is not a very new concept. It is an old concept, and it has been used in many places. Over my 18 plus years of teaching in the US, I quickly realized that we were doing the competency-based education, and this was as a demand because the students needed to be engaged. The students were not even attending school because they felt like school wasn't engaging them. Students need to learn in a fun environment. Students need to learn in something that is more interesting, something that is more relevant, that they can use, the skills that they can use in their life. That is why there was a push for competency-based education. And for the teachers who adopted that so fast and schools that adopted that, they realized high school attendance, high engagement, and of course, high performance. Because it's an old concept, I'm going to walk through the theoretical foundations of competency-based education, and I will explore a few. And for the sake of our audience today, I'm just using really global terminologies which we can all understand. Competency-based education is based on constructivism theory of learning, which basically argues that learners actively construct knowledge through the experience. Learning is not something that just happens to students. Learning is something that students must do. When students engage with authentic challenges, cooperate with peers, and they reflect on experiences, they develop a deep understanding. Competence-based learning embraces this principle of constructing their own knowledge, where students learn by doing. And I will have to say that the picture that I have on that slide, that is, my son asked me to put it there because he saw something here on my slide, learning by doing. And that is a post I posted on Facebook in 2015 about learning by doing, where he was engaged in making something from good work. And out of that, he is now 16 years. This was 5 years, when he was 5 years. Out of that, I don't know if there was any inspiration. He is now looking forward to pursue a career in engineering because he was learning by doing. We do have mastery learning that makes the assumption that students must learn at the same pace. The mastery learning really challenges that not all students will learn at the same pace. And that's where competency-based education allows all the students to learn at their pace with the resources that are available. It proposes that nearly all learners can achieve high level of performance when provided with sufficient time, support, and feedback. The process and progress depends on demonstrated achievement rather than the time spent in the classroom. You want to see what is the product that they have created to develop that mastery. So let them find something that they are good at, and then they become mastery out of that they are good at. Then we have this old theory, experiential learning, and the one that I have there, that is a citation from 1984, which emphasizes the importance of learning through experience. Students learn effectively when they experience, reflect, conceptualize, and apply. That is what competence-based approach really incorporates. Competence-based approaches would incorporate internships to students, field experiences, simulations, lab work, and project-based learning. And with that, I'm going to show you a small, quick video. And it was me in a third grade 3 classroom, And then I saw what the teacher was doing. My son attends the same school, and I asked him to bring me this project home. Here, my son is trying to explain how the hand and the brain coordinates in 3rd grade. And I'll play.
I built this thing in school, and it's like your hand. So like how would you move it? By like moving with the strength. But like with your regular hand, you wouldn't move it, and your bones in your hand, your bones and your muscles will send the signal to your nervous system, and your nervous system will send it to your brain, and it'll communicate back to your nervous system, and then to your bones, and then they would start to, then you can start to feel your hand to move.
So that is a 3rd grade student explaining that. And I can attest that in my own experience, doing biology and going to high school in Kenya, that is the first time in Form 3, that is when I had about support and movement, that is when I could talk about how my hand and the brain works. But here you can see the kids in elementary, as early as elementary, they are able to see and create something and use it to explain what that looks like. That is a simulation you can use, and it really, they say whenever, the educators who are in the room will agree that whenever students have something tangible, manipulative, it also stimulates their learning and memory, and they're able to understand that. Then the last theory I will talk about is outcome-based education. And the educators who are in the room, this is the backward model design. Here, we are saying that it begins with the end goal in mind. Education goals must be clearly be defined. Curriculum, teaching methods, assessment aligns with the desired outcome. Competence-based models extend this approach by making outcome observable and measurable. And that is where we'll say like the key question here, and it's not like really calling out anybody, but we say that any major curriculum change should not be made without a meaningful involvement of teachers and the teacher training programs such as our universities and institutions of higher learning. If you have the outcome in mind, then you should know the people who implement that outcome in mind are the ones who are going to communicate that clearly to the learners. As we transcend now to transition to theory to practice, it requires institutional transformation. Competence-based education is not simply a curriculum revision. It is the change of educational philosophy. Successful implementation requires attention to several critical areas. And one of those areas is curriculum design. As a first step, it involves identifying the competencies the graduates should possess. These competencies should emerge from academic expertise, the industry expectations, professional standards, community needs, the future workforce demands. And once these competencies are defined, curriculum mapping becomes more essential. Then the faculty should examine where the competencies are introduced, reinforced, and mastered across the programs. Every course contributes intentionally to a competency development, and the result is a greater coherence and a purpose throughout the curriculum. Competency-based education, it requires a shift from the teacher-centered instruction to a learner-centered engagement. The educator's role evolves from information provider to learning facilitator. This transformation involves adopting actively learning strategies, such as problem-based learning, where the students investigate complex real-world problems, they research on them, they cooperate, and develop solutions. It involves project-based learning, where students apply knowledge to meaningful projects, and those projects will mirror the professions they practice in, and that becomes interdisciplinary and authentic. It requires cooperative learning, where the students learn from each other and from one another. They develop in communication, teamwork, leadership competencies. It also requires reflective practice where the students will regularly evaluate their own learning, that promotes metacognition, and it is a continuous improvement. This will deepen their understanding, and they are more engaging than the passive traditional ways that we are using to teaching. Assessment is also another key area as we move to practice. Now, assessment may be the most challenging aspect of competency-based education. Now, traditional examinations often measure what we know, and it is just about knowledge recall. Competence assessment requires evidence performance, authentic assessments that include portfolios, simulations, capstone projects, presentations, clinical demonstrations, case analysis, and workplace evaluations like attachments. These methods provide richer learning, and they answer the question, can students perform effectively in realistic situations? That really brings the shift from grades to demonstrated ability. Assessment becomes part of the learning rather than merely a measurement. And as we grapple with this is where we can see maybe some of the mistakes have been made, why the larger emphasis of exams has always been something that we have treasured. But then we need now to focus on demonstrated capabilities of students. And this comes through as educators, faculty members, and teachers, that we know that this transformation will not take place without faculty leadership. The faculty are the architects who are learning, who have the learning experiences, and who are going to provide these learning experiences to the learners. They are the mentors who guide the students' development. They implement competency-based education, and this implementation requires faculty to develop in areas like learning outcome design, authentic assessment, active learning strategies, feedback techniques, digital learning technologies, and many more. And you have to be an intentional faculty member that you want to promote these authentic learning experiences to your students. Institutions also must invest in supporting faculty through this transition. Change cannot be imposed. Change must be cultivated, and faculty must take ownership, which is an essential part of this. And one of the greatest impacts of competency-based education is the impact on the learners. With competency-based education, students will gain clarity about expectations. They understand the success, what success looks like. They receive ongoing feedback. They become active participants in learning. Competency-based environments encourage students to take responsibility for learning, monitor their progress, reflect on their strengths and weaknesses. They build confidence through mastery. And at the end, education becomes more personalized and meaningful. And what I'm sharing there is a word cloud of a session that we had when I was there doing a training, but these were teachers from Mosojo Division in Kisii County. After they experienced a competency-based lesson and workshop, we asked them just one word to describe how they feel about that session. And you can see the words they use to describe. As you can see, the bigger the word is, how many of them were using that same word. That is the exact feel you want your students to feel in a competency-based learning. Interesting, great, fun. They should engage and have all those. But while we are talking about the real promise of competency-based education, it is not been easy. Even worldwide, competency-based education doesn't come without the challenges. There are so many challenges which comes with it, and most institutions frequently encounter resistance to change. There is the resource limitations, assessment complexities, accreditation concerns, faculty workload issues, technological requirements. Those are the many, many challenges that we see. And my biggest challenge that I have with even how we have implemented competency-based education, particularly in Kenya, is my down moment was when they added another national exam at 6th grade. That is another gatekeeping to students. But these challenges should not discourage us. They should rather remind us that meaningful change requires commitment, planning, and persistency. Successful institutions often begin with pilot programs. They gather evidence, refine the practices, and scale them up gradually. It is a journey, but not an event as we transform our education. And one of the strongest arguments for competency-based approaches lies in the graduate employability. Many employers globally are seeking evidence of capability. What are you able to do? Of course, the degrees we get, they have some importance. They remain relevant. However, the employers, they also want to know, can a graduate communicate effectively? Can they solve problems? Can they lead teams? Can they adapt? That is what is not given in any discipline. That is what competency-based education emphasizes. Competence-based education frameworks help answer all these questions. By documenting demonstrated competencies, institutions will provide greater transparency regarding the graduates' capabilities. This will strengthen the relationship between universities and industry. And in this era, it would be a disservice for me to talk about competence-based education without talking about what we have, the elephant in the room, the AI, artificial intelligence. The emergence of artificial intelligence has introduced also a new discussion, a new discourse globally. The AI can increasingly perform all the routine cognitive tasks that a human being can do. But what can we prepare our graduates now that they cannot be replaced by AI? Now, future graduates will need competencies that complement technology. They will need to be taught creativity. They will need to be taught ethical reasoning, emotional intelligence, leadership, complex problem solving, interdisciplinary thinking. These are some of the things that AI cannot do, but we have to impart them into our planners. Therefore, universities must prepare students not simply to use technology to thrive, but how to use technology along all these competencies. Competence-based education provides that framework of cultivating these uniquely human strengths that cannot be replaced with technology. As we move forward, I want you to imagine a future where higher education systems, where students clearly understand learning expectations. Faculty design learning experiences around meaningful competencies. Assessment reflects authentic performance. Degrees that our graduates earn communicate and demonstrate capabilities. Employers trust academic credentials that our graduates get. And the graduates leave prepared for a lifelong learning. That is the vision that we should have as a university, as institutions of higher learning. And this vision is achievable. Many institutions around the world have already begun this journey. There is experiences that have been demonstrated that competence-based approaches can improve student engagement, learning outcome, and workforce readiness. Then as I conclude, I want to invite each one of us here today to reflect about our role in shaping the future of higher education. If we are an institutional leader, let us create environments that support innovation. If you are a faculty member, let us design learning experiences that empower students. If we are policymakers, let us develop framework that encourages meaningful educational reform. If we are researchers, let us continue generating evidence to inform the practice. And most importantly, let us remain committed to our students. The ultimate purpose of education is not simply to transfer of knowledge, it is the development of human potential. Competence-based education reminds us that education is successful not when students compete and complete courses, but when they develop the capabilities needed to continue meaningfully and contribute meaningfully to the society. The journey from theory to practice is neither simple nor quick, yet it is a journey that is worth taking. The future of higher education depends on our willingness to embrace new possibilities while remaining grounded in our enduring mission of teaching, learning, and serving our students. Together, we can create educational systems that prepare graduates not only for employment, but also for leadership, citizenship, innovation, and lifelong success. Thank you for your attention, and I wish you a productive and inspiring conference ahead. Thank you so much.
Agree with me that this has been a very thrilling presentation, and it is befitting for the moment that it calls for a paradigm shift for the learner, for the parent, for the educator, the community, and all the stakeholders. Now, what did touch me is that do we have students who can perform effectively in realistic situations? And I agree with me, that has been the problem. Why are we changing the curriculum? That in the world of employment, which the keynote speaker has spoken well about, there is a mismatch. What are you giving the employer? The employer is not ready to consume what you are giving him or her as an educator. And so as he's ending, he's calling for a collaborative effort. And you know that is a teaching strategy in competence-based education. Professor Ogage, when we have been having our induction meetings here, some other faculties have been wondering here, do the people of law need competence-based education? Do health people need competence-based education? And I think that has been answered here very well. These are paradigm shifts for everybody. This law student needs to engage with the community outside. The health expert would need to engage with the community outside. And so the competencies, which is said clearly that our learners must move from knowledge itself to something else, is a must for everybody. Allow me to thank the keynote speaker most sincerely. To me, this has again brought in new perspectives. And I now am more empowered than I was. And I will call upon our educators in the house that can we change from the yellow notes under the very theory gave, which is informing the CBE, the constructivism theory. We are locating the learner as somebody who is able to create knowledge. So when you go to that class, you are not going to a class of somebody who is in a tabula rasa state, from a psychological perspective. It's not a clean slate. Or already in the mind of that learner, something has been written in it. So you only need to be a collaborator, a partner. You co-create together with that very learner. We were not meant to be engaging the keynote speaker here. But I don't know, Professor Kimoli, if you could wish that we seek any clarification from you. Is that in order? You are not muted. You are muted. You are not. You can unmute. I'm not still hearing. Prof.
Then
there is something which is not working here.
Online, we are hearing the prophet.
Yeah, but here we are not hearing him. I don't know what is the problem. Yeah. Oh, he said it's in order now. Perhaps we can take a few minutes.
A very intensive topic you have just elaborated and deliberated on. If there's anything I can hold firm, I should talk about change can't be imposed. Yeah, you see, in the era of change, it is a selective agendum. It's not something that can be done collaboratively. So it's either you accept change, or you accept it the way it is, or you take other forms. But my question precisely is, you were talking about one of the ways AI cannot be achieved in as far as technological advancement, promotion of scientific spirit is concerned, is competence-based discipline. And I love that as a matter of seriousness, as a matter of fact. So I want more clarification on this aspect, that competence-based discipline cannot be in totality, involved in as far as AI is concerned. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that is the clarification on AI and competence-based education. Some of us, we can be writing, those on the online platform, you can be writing your responses, and Prof can respond by writing. Because of time management, we are ready to noon, and we are running behind the program. Any other concerns so that a Prof can be able to respond to all of them? Yeah, that tells me that I'm seeing one. Yes.
Yeah, thank you very much for that insightful lecture. Dr. Katrina Bongiasada, University of Calabar, Cross River State, Nigeria. From what I understood, the shift from competence-based learning, it requires a total shift from teacher-based learning to the learner-based. So in that way, I want to find out that there should be a lot of changes from the curriculum. I don't know here in Kenya, but in Nigeria, we get to realize that the curriculum is more academic based. You know, the teacher delivers, the lesson is more about the teacher talks. And we got to think, when you talk about competency, you talk about life after school. Are you able to stand? Are you able to do what you have been taught in school? Can you stand on your own if you don't get a white-collar job? Are you competent enough to do something you have learned? So it's just a suggestion anyway. It's not a question. Is that the paradigm shift should be more on what you do with what you have learned. Are we doing what we have learned from school? You know, we should put more effort to develop what we have learned, you know. That is, the instructions should be more of what the child can do. We saw a video that was posted while the person giving the lecture, you know, how the child was telling us how you get to, you know, the flex you get from your hand, it gets from the brain, you know, sends a signal from the brain, then you are able to flex your hand. So that's what you have learned from school. After school, can you put that into practice? We come from different disciplines here. We have medicine, we have engineering, we have finance, management, business. I am a sociologist of education. So after school, can you put that in practice? So there should be a paradigm shift, you know, from what we learn in school so that we can actualize that by putting it into practice after school. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. That was more of a suggestion. And I want to agree with you that the major problem in our schools is memorization. That is all about pumping in knowledge for the sake of it. This has even answered the DVC planning was all about application. If you had him clearly from his remarks, the DVC planning was all about how do we apply what we take from class. And you saw Professor Kimo talk about shift in terms of assessment. That can we change into what you call as authentic assessment? To me, how do you handle, again, even the AI? You know, we have been in the defense rooms. Even if you are using your AI to write your thesis, when it comes to a defense, you become stuck. You know, Professor Kimol did give one of the approaches of assessment that we really want to know if you know. And so we needed to rethink. Part of our reimagining is reimagining of your role as a teacher, your role as a learner, your role, again, as an educator in terms of assessment and everything. So I want to give Professor Kimori, I was minimizing the hands. Yes?
So first of all, I want to say thank you, Professor Kimori, for your contributions towards the conference. My concern comes in that in the society where we come from, we have people who are enabled differently. And in this case, I'm speaking on behalf of people with disabilities or special needs. So is it because you have talked about the constructivist theory whereby learners are supposed to construct their own knowledge. So what about these people who are enabled differently? Do we have a curriculum to be able to assist them construct their own knowledge? Thank you.
Thank you so much. Allow me to bring the keynote speaker to respond to the two issues raised because of the interest of time. Professor Kimori.
Thank you. I hope you can hear me now.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for those questions, and thank you for the addition from our faculty member from Calabar. I will start with a question on AI and competency-based education. So AI, artificial intelligence, as it is coming, and it's coming rapidly. And my position is competency-based education is here to complement technology. If you ask anybody right now, you ask the young generation, the students that we teach, who are really the Gen Zs, Alpha students, they will tell you that technology is here to stay. And I was reading one article which says like technology is here to stay, it's not going anywhere. If we, the adults, are the ones preventing the students from getting their full potential by using technology, the students are telling us, get out of the way. It is either us to learn how to use this technology and give them the skills that they can learn and complement how they can be creative using technology. How can they cooperate using technology? Right now, students all over the world are able to cooperate, even write a paper from different parts of the world. That is technology. But with AI now, as it comes, AI should be, as we said at the beginning, and I think one of the presenters mentioned about AI should be a co-collaborator, not something that you entirely use for your thinking. AI, in terms of competency-based education, which promotes now creativity, promotes cooperation, that is where AI comes in, but it is there to complement. But if a student really depends largely on AI without these soft skills, we are mentioning the skills of communication, skills of teamwork, cooperation, then they cannot even be able to function outside without that help of AI. But I would say technology is good, and with competence-based education, technology can be used to just the question of differently individuals and do some and I like that also gives us a good opportunity to think about how can competency-based education really be more inclusive to all students and the student needs. And this is where what I said, cooperative learning, co-op learning really works well. When I teach in a class, I teach a class where I have students go outside, get different samples to come and use class for learning experience. In that class, I happen to have a student on a wheelchair. I happen to have a student on stretchers, not be able to go out at that time. This is where I partner with the student, either to go out or I can assign them the same activity they can be able to use online, the same samples online. This is where simulations in competence-based education comes in. Instead of them doing the actual thing and have a simulation. And I know that will come with technological challenges, but one big answer to your question is competence now promote us learning from each other and learning with each other. That is the thing. It is cooperation. So if a student is differently able, you can group them, pair them up with another, even if it is an exam, because we said the exam now is of demonstrating the skill. Let them, they can work cooperatively together. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think those concerns have been answered. Using AI as a co-collaborator to complement creativity in CBE, and for CBE inclusivity, encouraging more cooperative learning as a strategy within our classes. Allow me to say thank you so much, the keynote speaker, Professor David Kimori. Pass our regards to your institution as Kisii University collaborators and partners. Allow me to welcome the MC to proceed from here. Perhaps you read to appreciate the keynote speaker. Thank you.
Thank you very much, the moderator, for that very nice session. I want us to appreciate our keynote speaker, and I think we can give him also 5 factorial, just to say thank you very much. I'm sure we have learned a lot. It was very fast, but again, we are going to internalize and see how this can be very practical. Let's start. 1. I think we are not used, we lost it in the middle, but it's okay. Professor, we are very, very grateful. And I guess this is just a continuity in terms of our collaboration with your university. And again, our university is still open for you. Visit us. Let's have that practical and physical visitation. Now, ladies and gentlemen, time is fast spent. We are getting into a quick break. It's already midday, but there is tea for you. And this is how we are going to do it from here. I'm requesting for a group photo outside there. You get through that exit and that exit quickly. I'm sure there are those who are taking that photo. Organizers very quickly have a group photo. Thereafter, the rest we can go for tea, except the following: our dear VC and the University Management Board, the professors present, and the keynote speakers. I'm sure those who are online will not be able to enjoy this for media briefing. And I think you can also reach the keynote speakers like Professor Kimori, you can engage him online so that he can be able to whatever you want to discuss with them. And that is the next in the program. So we will all be up. I will ask one of us to pray for the tea, and then we exit out there for the photo, and then I will ask the university management and our dear VC to remain for media briefing, the professors present, and the keynote speakers. Shall we say a short prayer for the tea? Father, we thank you for this far that you have brought us in terms of knowledge discussion and sharing. And now we take a break. We ask for your presence as we share the cup of tea and the accompaniment and the rest of other activities. We know that you're going to be in charge, for we pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Please, may I request you remain where you are, first of all, for this guidance. We will go out